Greetings everyone, Brett here with Hammerhead Model Making, back with another 5-minute review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hobby Boss 148 scale YF-23. And if you're asking me for my opinion, I think this one looks better than the F-22. Well, especially, I should say, it looks better than the YF-22. The actual production F-22 looks pretty cool, but still, this one's just a very unique aircraft and something that I've definitely had on my, list of things that I've wanted to build. And a few people have left comments saying, hey, you should build this one. This should build this one. So definitely want to get this one on the bench sooner rather than later. But at least for now, we'll take a look at the actual kit itself. Now, this is a HobbyOS kit, and it's one of those rare instances where this aircraft should not necessarily have any visible rivet lines, because it kind of defeats the whole point of stealth. And so, in a moment of restraint, Hobby Boss has not done any rivets on this. And the panel lines that it does have are very, very shallow, very discreet. So I think it's appropriate for the scale. The overall kit itself is actually really simple. I mean, there's really not a lot going on to this kit because you don't really get a lot of options with this kit. Top and bottom fuselage halves knit together. I do appreciate that the actual seam line is on the underside of the side of the fuselage there. It just makes it a little bit easier to hide the seam and clean it up. You do get very large flying surfaces, so your wings, top and bottom halves, and then the, V-tail, top and bottom halves of each. They're just pretty much basic geometric shapes with some panel lines, so not a whole lot to go. You'll notice overall the aircraft has a bit of a texture to it, to the plastic. I'd be curious to see what that looks like under a coat of primer, to see if that really shows up. Might consider, hitting that with some like 800,000 grit sandpaper. The interior of the wheel wells and the cockpit, they all seem pretty nice, and just in terms of like some generic detailing. I don't have a lot of information as to whether or not it's accurate to the prototypes that flew. There's still a lot that's classified about the YF-23, well, the ATF program in general. And I know that because when they built the prototypes, they used a lot of like already off-the-shelf stuff. So a lot of the components come from like F-15, things like that. And so that, there's some commonality there. But I mean, for the most part, it all looks pretty nice. It looks busy. It looks like it looks passable for what it's supposed to be. You do get, full-length intake trunking that have like the S-curve shape in them. You do not get any first stage compressor detail. Not that you would like to, not you'd actually see it. You can see here that my ejection seat was actually damaged. And it's all right though, because I would end up replacing it with a resin one anyways. So, but just be aware there was damage. The rest of the parts all look pretty standard, pretty normal. I mean, I can't necessarily find a huge fault with a lot of it. So, I think it looks pretty fair, if somewhat simplified. You do not get options in terms of like open or closed weapon bays, things like that. You don't even get an option for an open canopy. It's designed to be in the closed position, and if you wanted a model to open, you'd have to look at reference pictures to see what the actual mechanism is around the canopy. So just be aware. Clear parts look crystal clear, and in typical Hobby Boss fashion, they're wrapped in protective foam. So definitely give props to Hobby Boss for that. Decals, you only get the option to make the Gray Ghost version of the prototype. So there's two prototypes, the Gray Ghost and the Black Widow 2. So this one is only for the Gray Ghost, but again, pretty simple in terms of its markings. And yeah, so going through the instructions here, you can see it's pretty typical. Start with the ejection seat, landing gear, cockpit, nose wheel well. That all kind of goes together as one unit. Main landing gear. Despite the simplicity of the kit, there's actually a fair amount of parts going into the landing gear, so at least that's one nice area. You do get boxed in engine exhaust because of the nature of the heat dispersion and the stealth characteristics of the aircraft. It did not have thrust vectoring, which was one of the reasons why the Air Force ultimately chose the F-22. But there you go. I think the kit is actually a little on the pricey side for what you get. That said, if you want a 148 scale YF-23, it's pretty much the only option. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this one on the bench. Thank you to all those who recommended the kit. Huge shout out to the patrons. And if you like the content, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.